First contact and peril. The vast expanse of space, typically a canvas of twinkling stars and swirling nebulae, was marred by an unsettling sight. The Zephyrian ship, once a pinnacle of alien engineering, limped through the inky void, its sleek hull scarred and battered. Inside, Captain Zira, her iridescent skin dulled with exhaustion, gripped the control panel with trembling appendages. "Status report," she croaked, her multifaceted eyes scanning the flickering holograms before her. Her second in command, Vex, a being of living crystal, chimed softly. "Life support at 30%, Captain. Propulsion systems failing. We cannot outrun them much longer." The "them" Vex referred to needed no elaboration. For cycles now, the Zephyrians had fled from an implacable foe, a species so violent and ruthless that they had laid waste to dozens of peaceful worlds. The destroyers, as they had come to be known, seemed to exist solely to conquer and annihilate. As if summoned by the mere thought of them, alarms blared throughout the ship. Zira's heart sank as a massive vessel materialized from the darkness, its jagged form a stark contrast to the flowing lines of Zephyrian design. "They found us," Zira whispered, her voice laced with despair. Just as hope seemed lost, a new alert caught her attention. Vex's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. "Captain, I'm detecting an unknown signal. It's a planet." Zira's eyes widened as the holographic display shifted, revealing a blue and green orb suspended in space. "Can we reach it?" Vex performed rapid calculations. "Yes, but, Captain, the readings from this world are unlike anything we've encountered. The gravity, the atmospheric pressure, the radiation levels, they're all far beyond what we consider habitable." Zira's mandibles clicked in determination. "It's our only chance. Plot a course, maximum speed." As the crippled Zephyrian vessel limped towards the mysterious planet, the destroyer ship loomed ever closer, like a predator toying with its prey. On Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez squinted at her computer screen, brow furrowed in concentration. The radio telescope array she managed had picked up an anomalous signal, unlike anything she'd seen in her years of searching the stars. "Hey, Jim," she called out to her colleague. "Come take a look at this." Dr. James Chen hurried over, his eyes widening as he saw the data. "That can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. "It looks almost like a distress signal." Elena finished, her voice barely above a whisper. Before they could discuss further, the night sky lit up with an otherworldly glow. Through the observatory's dome, they watched in awe as two objects, clearly not meteors, streaked across the heavens. "My God," Jim breathed. "Are those spaceships?" Elena confirmed, her heart racing. "We need to alert the authorities. Now." Miles away, in a nondescript government facility, General Sarah Hawkins received the call she had both dreaded and anticipated for years. As head of Earth's covert alien response team, she had trained for this moment her entire career. "Scramble the response teams," she barked into her secure comlink, "and get me the president. First contact is no longer hypothetical." As dawn broke over the New Mexico desert, a scene of controlled chaos unfolded. Military vehicles surrounded a massive impact crater, within which lay the battered form of the Zephyrian ship. Soldiers in hazmat suits cautiously approached, weapons at the ready. Inside the ship, Captain Zira fought against waves of nausea and disorientation. The planet's powerful gravity felt like it was crushing her very being. "Vex," she gasped. "Are you functional?" A weak chime responded. "Barely, Captain. But the ship's systems are offline. We're trapped." Suddenly, a grinding noise filled the air as the emergency hatch was forced open from the outside. Zira braced herself, expecting to see the nightmarish visage of the destroyers. Instead, she found herself face to face with a creature unlike any she had encountered. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, encased in a protective suit, stared in wonder at the alien before her. Its insectoid features were both beautiful and utterly foreign. Forcing herself to focus, She raised her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "We mean you no harm," she said slowly, praying that her words somehow conveyed her intent. To her amazement, a mechanical voice emanated from a device on the alien's thorax. "Help, please," it croaked in halting English. "Danger comes." As the Zephyrians were carefully extracted from their ship, a flurry of activity erupted at the highest levels of global government. The UN Security Council convened in an emergency session, while world leaders grappled with the reality that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. In a secure medical facility, Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly alongside a team of xenobiologists, attempting to stabilize the alien visitors. The Zephyrians' physiology was a marvel, clearly adapted to conditions far different from Earth's. "It's incredible," Elena murmured as she reviewed the medical scans. "Their cellular structure, their respiratory system, everything about them suggests they evolved on a world with far lower gravity and a much thinner atmosphere. The fact that they're surviving here at all is nothing short of miraculous." General Hawkins, overseeing the operation, frowned. "Can they recover?" Elena nodded slowly. "I think so, with time. But there's something else." She pulled up a holographic display of Captain Zura's brain activity. "Their neural patterns are off the charts. I think they might be telepathic." As if on cue, Captain Zura's eyes fluttered open. The alien's gaze locked onto Elena, and suddenly the human found her mind flooded with vivid images and emotions. She saw beautiful worlds laid to waste, entire civilizations fleeing in terror, and behind it all, a relentless force of destruction. Gasping, Elena stumbled backward. "They're refugees," she managed to say, "running from something terrible." General Hawkins' expression darkened, "And I have a feeling that something followed them here." High above the Earth, cloaked from human detection systems, the destroyer ship hung in low orbit. Inside its cavernous command center, a beam of shadows and malevolence fixed its gaze on the blue planet below. Supreme Commander Vorax, his form rippling with barely contained energy, addressed his subordinates. "So, the vermin thought they could hide on this pitiful rock," he growled, his voice like grinding stone. "Prepare the invasion fleet. We will crush these primitives and take what is ours." One of his officers, more daring than the rest, spoke up. "Supreme Commander, our scans indicate that this world's conditions are extreme. The gravity alone would crush most of our ground forces." Vorax's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you suggesting that these humans are stronger than us?" The officer quickly backpedaled. "No, Supreme Commander. Merely that we should exercise caution. This species has managed to survive and even thrive in an environment that would kill most sentient beings. They may prove resilient." A cruel smile twisted Vorax's features. "Then we shall enjoy breaking them all the more. Begin the attack." Back on Earth, as governments scrambled to prepare for the unthinkable, Captain Zura finally regained enough strength to communicate more clearly. Through a mixture of technology and telepathy, she conveyed the full extent of the danger to Dr. Rodriguez and General Hawkins. "The destroyers are not like us," Zyra explained, her mechanical voice tinged with fear. "They consume entire worlds, stripping them of resources, and moving on. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be appeased. They will not stop until your world is nothing but ash." General Hawkins' jaw clenched. "With all due respect, Captain, humanity has faced its share of challenges. We're not about to roll over for some intergalactic bullies." Zyra's alien features contorted in what Elena recognized as surprise. But this world, your Earth, it's a death world. The conditions here are incredibly hostile. How can you even survive, let alone contemplate fighting a technologically superior foe?" Dr. Rodriguez couldn't help but smile. "Captain, what you see as a hostile environment is our home. We've evolved to not just survive here, but to thrive. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's overcoming impossible odds. As if to punctuate her words, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. General Hawkins rushed to a nearby console, her face grim as she took in the information. "Multiple objects entering the atmosphere," she reported. "It looks like your friends have arrived, Captain." Outside, the sky turned to fire as destroyer dropships punched through the atmosphere. The invasion of Earth had begun, and humanity was about to show the galaxy why you should never underestimate a species forged on a death world. Alliance and preparation. The world watched in stunned silence as the first images of the alien invaders hit the global news networks. Destroyer dropships, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry, descended upon major cities across the globe. Panic gripped populations worldwide, but years of disaster preparedness drills and a steady diet of alien invasion movies had surprisingly readied humanity for this moment more than anyone could have anticipated. In Washington, D.C., President Alana Chen stood before a hastily assembled press conference, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "My fellow Americans, citizens of Earth, today we face a threat unlike any in human history, but we do not face it alone, nor do we face it unprepared." As she spoke, military forces worldwide mobilized with astonishing speed. The years of Cold Wars and regional conflicts had kept Earth's defenses honed, and now that practice was being put to the ultimate test. Back at the secure facility in New Mexico, now dubbed First Contact Base, Captain Zira watched in astonishment as humans rushed about with purposeful determination. Despite the looming threat, there was no panic, no breakdown of order. Instead, she witnessed a species galvanizing itself for war. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached the alien captain, her face etched with concern, but her eyes blazing with resolve. "Captain Zira, we need everything you can tell us about the destroyers. Their weaknesses, their tactics, anything that might give us an edge." Zira's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of her bewilderment. "You truly intend to fight, but the destroyers have laid waste to countless worlds far more advanced than yours." General Hawkins, overhearing the conversation, strode over. Her uniform was impeccable, her bearing radiating confidence. "With all due respect, Captain, those worlds weren't Earth. We may not have your level of technology, but we have something just as valuable: the will to survive against all odds." As if to emphasize her point, a young soldier rushed up, saluting crisply. "General, the prototype EMP cannons are ready for deployment. R&D says they should disrupt the destroyer's energy shields." Zira's translator struggled to keep up, but the implications were clear. Somehow, in the brief time since first contact, these humans had already adapted their technology to combat the invaders. "How?" Zira asked, her voice filled with wonder. "How could you develop such weapons so quickly?" Dr. Rodriguez couldn't help but smile. "We may not have faster-than-light travel, Captain, but human ingenuity is a force to be reckoned with. We've been imagining and preparing for this scenario for decades." As they spoke, reports flooded in from around the globe. The initial waves of destroyer forces were meeting far stiffer resistance than they had anticipated. In London, the famous Thames Barrier had been reproposed into a massive EMP generator, short-circuiting an entire squadron of alien fighters. In Tokyo, swarms of AI-controlled microdrones blinded destroyer ground units, allowing civilian populations to evacuate safely. But the aliens were far from defeated. Their superior technology and ruthless tactics were exacting a heavy toll. Major cities burned, and casualty reports mounted by the hour. In orbit, Supreme Commander Vorax raged at his subordinates. "How are these primitives resisting us? Their world should have been ours within hours." His second-in-command, Zark, cautiously approached. "Supreme Commander, our initial assessments were flawed. These humans are unlike any species we've encountered. Their adaptability, their tenacity, it's unprecedented." Vorax's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you impressed by these vermin, Zark?" "No, Supreme Commander." Zark quickly backpedaled. merely stating that we may need to adjust our strategies, perhaps a show of overwhelming force to break their will. A cruel smile twisted Vorax's features. Yes, prepare the world breaker. We'll show these humans the true meaning of power. Back on Earth, as battles raged across the globe, an unprecedented cooperation was taking shape. Ancient rivalries were set aside as nations united against the common threat. Scientific minds from every corner of the world collaborated, sharing breakthroughs and innovations at a pace that would have been unthinkable mere days ago. At First Contact Base, Captain Zara found herself at the center of this whirlwind of human activity. Despite her initial doubts, she couldn't help but be impressed by the sheer determination of these Deathworlders. "Your ionic pulse generators," she said, examining a schematic. "If we could integrate them with our phase shift technology, we might be able to create a defense screen capable of repelling their energy weapons." Dr. Rodriguez's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. I'll get our engineers on it right away." As they worked, Zara began to understand why the humans had survived and thrived on their harsh world. Their bodies, evolved to withstand Earth's punishing gravity, possessed strength and endurance that amazed her. Their minds, honed by millennia of overcoming environmental challenges, were quick and innovative. General Hawkins approached, her face grim. "We've got reports of a massive energy buildup in the destroyer fleet. Whatever they're planning, it's big." Captain Zara's heart sank. "The World Breaker," she whispered. "It's a weapon capable of shattering a planet's crust. We've seen it used on other worlds." A hush fell over the command center as the implications sank in. But instead of despair, Zara saw something else in the eyes of the humans around her. Determination. "Then we'll just have to break it first," General Hawkins said, her voice steely. "Dr. Rodriguez, how quickly can we get a team onto one of their ships?" Elena's eyes widened. "You want to board a destroyer vessel. The radiation alone would kill most living things." "Most living things didn't evolve on a death world," Hawkins countered. "Captain Zara, would your people be able to guide a small team through a destroyer ship?" Zara's alien features contorted in what the humans had come to recognize as an expression of shock. "It would be suicide. The internal conditions of their vessels are even harsher than your world." A new voice joined the conversation. "Then it sounds like a job for the Deathworlders." All eyes turned to see a group of soldiers entering the command center. At their lead was Captain Maya Ortiz, her scared face a testament to years of hard combat. Behind her stood a diverse team of men and women, each bearing the insignia of elite special forces units from around the world. "General," Maya saluted, "the Deathworld response team is ready for action. Just point us at the enemy." As preparations for the daring mission began, news came in from the front lines. The destroyers, frustrated by the unexpectedly fierce resistance, had resorted to increasingly brutal tactics. Entire cities were being vaporized, millions of lives snuffed out in instants of blinding energy. But for every atrocity, human resolve only strengthened. Civilian militias fought alongside professional soldiers. Hackers and IT specialists waged digital warfare against the invaders' systems. Even children joined the effort, their quick minds and nimble fingers assembling vital components for the war effort. Captain Zara, watching it all unfold, felt a shift in her perspective. She had pitied these humans at first, seeing them as doomed primitives on a harsh world. Now she began to understand that the very challenges of their homeworld had forged them into something extraordinary. As the Deathworld response team made final preparations for their desperate mission, Dr. Rodriguez made a startling discovery. Analyzing data from the ongoing battles, she realized that the destroyers were struggling in Earth's environment. Their movements were sluggish, their reactions slowed by the planet's gravity. "Don't you see?" she exclaimed to General Hawkins. "Earth isn't just our home, it's our greatest weapon. The very conditions that make this a death world to others give us an advantage." Hawkins' eyes gleamed with understanding. "We're not just fighting for our survival," she said. "We're fighting on our home turf, and we're going to make these bastards regret ever setting foot on our world." As night fell across a battle-scarred Earth, humanity steeled itself for the challenges ahead. The destroyers had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, a species tempered by millennia of survival on an unforgiving world. In orbit, unaware of the audacious plan being set in motion below, Supreme Commander Vorax gazed at the blue planet with growing unease. These humans were proving to be unlike any foe the destroyers had faced before. For the first time in his long, violent existence, Vorax felt a flicker of doubt. The battle for Earth was far from over, but one thing was becoming clear. Underestimating the inhabitants of this death world had been the invaders' first and possibly fatal mistake. As the Deathworld response team boarded their stealth shuttle, Captain Maya Ortiz turned to her squad. "All right, people. We're about to do something no human has ever done before. We're taking the fight to the stars. Whatever happens up there, remember this. Every one of us carries the strength of Earth with us. Let's show these aliens what Deathworlders can do." With a roar of engines, the shuttle launched into the night sky, carrying with it the hopes of a planet. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn why you should never corner a species that calls a Deathworld home. The battle begins. The stealth shuttle carrying the Deathworld response team pierced Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to both human and destroyer sensors. Inside, Captain Maya Ortiz and her elite squad checked their gear one last time. Their suits, a marvel of human engineering and Zephyrian technology, were designed to protect them from the extreme conditions aboard the destroyer vessels. "Remember," Maya addressed her team, her voice steady despite the tension. "We're not just fighting for Earth. We're showing the galaxy what humans are made of. Failure is not an option." As they approached the looming form of the destroyer mothership, alarms suddenly blared throughout the shuttle. "They've detected us," the pilot shouted, his hands dancing across the controls. Maya's jaw clenched. So much for the element of surprise. "All right, team. Looks like we're doing this the hard way." The shuttle juked and weaved through a barrage of energy blasts. The pilot's skill pushed to its limits. With a bone-jarring thud, they crashed into one of the destroyer ship's docking bays, the impact throwing the humans against their restraints. "Go, go, go," Maya shouted as the shuttle's hatch blew open. The Deathworld response team poured out, immediately engaging the stunned destroyer security forces. The aliens, accustomed to fighting weaker, less resilient species, were unprepared for the ferocity of the human assault. Maya watched with grim satisfaction as her team's training paid off. Despite the crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere of the destroyer ship, the humans moved with lethal efficiency. "Push forward," Maya ordered, her pulse rifles spitting death at the enemy. "We need to reach the main reactor." Back on Earth, the situation grew increasingly dire. The destroyers, enraged by the unexpected resistance, had intensified their attacks. Major cities around the globe lay in ruins, millions of lives lost in the relentless assault. At First Contact Base, Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked feverishly alongside Captain Zira, attempting to boost Earth's defenses. The Zephyrians' knowledge of advanced technology, combined with human ingenuity, was producing results that would have been deemed impossible just days ago. "If we can amplify the ionic pulse generators," Zira suggested, her translator struggling to keep up with her excited chittering, "we might be able to create a planetary shield." Elena's eyes widened at the implications. That could work. But the power requirements would be enormous. General Hawkins, overhearing the conversation, strode over. "Whatever you need, you'll have it. Every nuclear reactor, every power plant on the planet. It's all at your disposal." As they worked, reports continued to flood in from around the world. Despite the overwhelming technological superiority of the destroyers, humanity refused to break. In the ruins of Shanghai, elderly grandmothers tended to the wounded with quiet determination. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes used their intimate knowledge of the land to run devastating guerrilla operations against destroyer ground forces. Each small victory, each act of defiance, added up. The destroyers, used to swift conquests of weaker worlds, found themselves mired in a grueling war of attrition against an enemy that simply refused to quit. In orbit, Supreme Commander Vorax raged at his subordinates. How are these primitives still resisting? Why hasn't the World Breaker been deployed? His second-in-command, Zark, approached cautiously. Supreme Commander, we've detected a security breach. The humans, they've somehow managed to board the mothership. Vorax's eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed in fury. Impossible. No species could survive our internal environment. He paused, a chilling realization dawning. Unless we've gravely underestimated these Deathworlders. Aboard the destroyer mothership, the Deathworld response team fought their way deeper into the alien vessel. The ship's internal conditions were nightmarish: crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, and levels of radiation that would have killed most species in minutes. But humans were not most species. Forged on a world that had tried to kill them at every turn, tempered by millions of years of evolution on an unforgiving planet, they pushed forward. "Torres, on your left," Maya shouted, her warning allowing a teammate to dodge a destroyer energy blast. The human counterattack was swift and brutal, years of Special Forces training combined with Deathworld-honed reflexes proving too much for the alien defenders. As they fought, Maya couldn't help but notice the destroyer's sluggish movements, their apparent struggle with the ship's internal gravity. A grim smile touched her lips. For once, humanity's harsh homeworld was proving to be an advantage. "We're approaching the main reactor," her team's tech specialist, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, reported. "But these readings, Captain, the energy levels are off the charts. This must be the power source for their world-breaker weapon." Maya's expression hardened. "Then that's our primary target. We take it out, we might just save Earth." As the humans prepared to breach the reactor chamber, alarms blared throughout the ship. Supreme Commander Vorax's voice echoed through the corridors, a mixture of rage and disbelief coloring his words. "Attention, human vermin. Your pathetic attempt at sabotage ends here. You may have surprised us with your resilience, but you are still insignificant creatures before the might of the destroyers." Maya exchanged glances with her team. "Sounds like we got the big man's attention," she quipped, her humor a thin veneer over steely determination. "Let's show him what insignificant creatures can do." With a nod to Dr. Tanaka, Maya gave the order. Shaped charges, designed to work in the extreme conditions of the destroyer ship, detonated against the reactor chamber doors. As the smoke cleared, the Deathworld response team surged forward, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them. What they found stopped them in their tracks. The reactor core pulsed with otherworldly energy, its light so intense it was nearly solid. And there, standing before it like a dark god, was Supreme Commander Vorax himself. "I must admit," Vorax's voice boomed, his massive form dwarfing even the largest human, "you Deathworlders have proven more interesting than anticipated. But your futile resistance ends now." With shocking speed for his size, Vorax lashed out. Two of Maya's team were sent flying, their bodies crushed by the alien's incredible strength. The remaining humans opened fire, their weapons, a mix of human ingenuity and Saphirian technology, scoring hits against Vorax's armored hide. But the destroyer commander seemed to shrug off the assault. "You thought your weapons could harm me." He laughed, the sound like grinding stone. "I have conquered worlds beyond your imagination, laid waste to civilizations that would make your paltry achievements seem like a child's playthings." As Vorax monologued, Maya caught Dr. Tanaka's eye. The scientist nodded imperceptibly, edging towards a control panel. They had anticipated this. The alien leader's arrogance might just be the key to humanity's survival. "You're right," Maya said, her voice steady as she faced the towering alien. "We're just primitive Deathworlders. We can't hope to match your power." Her hand tightened on her weapon. "But here's the thing about humans, you overgrown bully. We don't know when to quit. With that, all hell broke loose. The remaining members of the Deathworld response team launched a coordinated attack, their movements a blur of Deathworld-honed reflexes and expert training. Vorax, for all his power, found himself on the defensive for the first time in centuries. As the battle raged, Dr. Tanaka worked feverishly at the alien controls. Years of studying xenotechnology were put to the ultimate test as she attempted to override the Worldbreaker's systems. Vorax, realizing the human's true intent, roared in fury. "You dare!" Energy crackled around him as he summoned the full might of his species' technology. "I will reduce your world to ash." The reactor core pulsed, the Worldbreaker powering up for its planet-killing strike. Maya, battered and bleeding but unbowed, stood her ground. Now Tanaka. With a final keystroke, Dr. Tanaka activated the override. The reactor's energy, instead of being channeled into the Worldbreaker, began to feed back upon itself. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems overloaded. "What have you done?" Vorax bellowed, his composure finally cracking. Maya allowed herself a grim smile. "We've done what humans do best. We found a way to survive." As the reactor reached critical levels, the Deathworld response team enacted the final part of their desperate plan. Emergency teleporters, reverse-engineered from Zephyrian technology, activated. In a flash of energy, the surviving humans vanished from the doomed destroyer mothership. Supreme Commander Vorax, the being who had brought ruin to countless worlds, could only watch in disbelief as his mighty vessel began to tear itself apart. In his final moments, a realization dawned. He had fatally underestimated the inhabitants of the death world called Earth. The explosion of the destroyer mothership lit up Earth's sky like a second sun. Cheers erupted from every corner of the globe as humanity realized that against all odds, they had struck a decisive blow against their would-be conquerors. But the war was far from over. As the remnants of the destroyer fleet regrouped, as Earth tended to its wounded and mourned its dead, one thing became clear. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity, the Deathworlders who had dared to challenge the mightiest force in the cosmos, had announced their presence to the stars. And the stars trembled. Turning the tide. The destruction of the destroyer mothership marked a turning point in the war, but it was far from the end. As the blinding light of the explosion faded from Earth's skies, a new reality set in. The remaining destroyer forces, though disorganized without their supreme commander, were still a formidable threat. And now, they were driven by something new. At first contact base, the mood was a mixture of elation and grim determination. The return of the surviving members of the Deathworld response team was met with cheers and tears. Captain Maya Ortiz, battered but unbowed, stood before General Hawkins and Dr. Rodriguez, her face etched with the weight of their victory and its cost. "We've given them a bloody nose," Maya reported, her voice hoarse from the toxic atmosphere she'd endured. "But they're not beaten yet." General Hawkins nodded solemnly. "You and your team have done the impossible, Captain. You've given us a fighting chance." She turned to Dr. Rodriguez and Captain Zura. "Now it's time to press our advantage. What have you got for us?" Elena's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Something big, General. Thanks to the data Dr. Tanaka managed to transmit before the mothership's destruction, we've made a breakthrough in understanding destroyer technology." Captain Zura chittered in agreement, her translator struggling to keep up with her enthusiasm. "It's remarkable. The human's ability to adapt and innovate. In days, you've achieved what would take most species years." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display, showing a complex network of energy signatures. "We've discovered that the destroyer's technology is based on a form of quantum entanglement. It's how they maintain communication and power distribution across their fleet." General Hawkins leaned in, her brow furrowed. "And how does this help us?" "Because," Elena said, her voice filled with barely contained excitement, "if we can disrupt this network, we can potentially cripple their entire fleet at once." The implications hung in the air. After days of desperate defense, The possibility of taking the fight to the enemy was intoxicating, but the challenge remained daunting. The only problem, Dr. Rodriguez continued, her tone sobering, is that to affect their entire network, we'd need to plant disruptors on multiple destroyer ships simultaneously, given the conditions aboard their vessels. You need Deathworlders, Maya finished, straightening despite her injuries. My team is ready, Doctor. Just tell us where to go. General Hawkins shook her head. Your team has done enough, Captain. It's time we showed the destroyers that you're not the only humans capable of the impossible. She turned to her comm officer. Get me the heads of every Special Forces unit on the planet. It's time for Operation Thunderstrike. As plans for the daring assault took shape, the remnants of the destroyer fleet regrouped in the dark side of the moon. Acting Commander Zark, thrust into leadership by Vorax's demise, faced a mutinous council of ship captains. We should withdraw, one captain snarled, his features contorted in a mixture of rage and fear. These Deathworlders have already killed the Supreme Commander. Who knows what else they're capable of? Zark silenced the outburst with a glare. We are destroyers. We do not flee from primitives, no matter how surprising they might be. His voice lowered dangerously. Or have you forgotten the price of cowardice in our society? The threat hung in the air, silencing further dissent. Zark continued, his tone severe. We underestimated these humans once. We will not make that mistake again. Prepare all ships for a final, overwhelming assault. We will burn their world to ash and erase the very memory of their existence from the galaxy. As the destroyers prepared their desperate attack, Earth was a hive of activity. The audacious plan to disrupt the alien fleet's quantum network required precision, timing, and above all, the unique resilience of humanity. Special Forces teams from every nation trained day and night, pushing themselves to the limits of human endurance and beyond. The harsh gravity of Earth, once seen as a cruel twist of cosmic fate, now served as the perfect preparation for the crushing conditions aboard the destroyer vessels. Dr. Rodriguez and Captain Zera worked tirelessly to refine the disruption technology. The device they created was a marvel of human and Zephyrian engineering, compact enough to be carried by the assault teams, yet powerful enough to sever the quantum links that bound the destroyer fleet together. As the preparations neared completion, General Hawkins called a final briefing. The command center of First Contact Base was packed with the leaders of the assault teams, each bearing the insignia of their home nation, but united in common purpose. What we're attempting has never been done before, Hawkins began, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. A simultaneous assault on multiple ships of a technologically superior enemy. The conditions you'll face are beyond harsh. They're lethal to most forms of life in the galaxy. She paused, her gaze sweeping the assembled warriors. But we are not most forms of life. We are humans. We are Deathworlders. And today, we will show the cosmos why that matters. A chorus of determined affirmations filled the room. These men and women, drawn from the elite fighting forces of Earth, knew the stakes. Failure meant not just their deaths, but the potential extinction of their species. As the briefing concluded, Dr. Rodriguez approached one of the team leaders, Major Yuki Tanaka, sister of the brave scientist who had sacrificed herself aboard the destroyer mothership. Major, Elena said, her voice soft with empathy. Your sister's data, it's what made this possible. She'd be proud of you. Yuki's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but her voice was steady. Thank you, Doctor. We'll make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. The day of the assault dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the dark purpose that lay ahead. As the specially designed stealth shuttles prepared for launch, a tense silence fell over First Contact Base. General Hawkins stood in the control room, her posture rigid as she watched the mission feeds. Beside her, Captain Zara's antenna twitched nervously. I still cannot believe you're attempting this, the Zephyrian said, awe evident in her voice. The risk is necessary, Hawkins finished. Sometimes, Zara, you have to go all in. It's a very human trait. When the stakes are highest, we play our boldest hand. As the shuttles lifted off, carrying with them the hopes of an entire planet, the remaining destroyer fleet began its approach to Earth. Acting Commander Zark, watching the blue world grow larger on his view screen, allowed himself a moment of doubt. These humans had proven to be unlike any foe the destroyers had faced before. For the first time in his long, violent life, Zark felt a flicker of fear. The human assault teams, cloaked by technology reverse-engineered from the Zephyrians, slipped past the destroyer's outer defenses. Each shuttle targeted a different capital ship, the linchpins of the alien fleet's command structure. Aboard her shuttle, Major Yuki Tanaka checked her team's gear one final time. The disruption device, the culmination of human and Zephyrian science, hummed softly in its protective case. She thought of her sister, of the billions of lives depending on their success, and steeled herself for what lay ahead. "Remember your training," she addressed her team, her voice calm despite the tension. "We are Deathworlders. What they see is a hostile environment we call home. Let's show these destroyers what that means." With a bone-jarring thud, the shuttles crashed into their designated landing bays. The element of surprise was total. The destroyers, confident in their technological superiority, had never anticipated a direct assault on their capital ships. The human teams burst from their shuttles, their movements a blur of Deathworld-honed reflexes and expert training. The destroyer defenders, caught off guard and struggling in their own ship's harsh conditions, fell before the human onslaught. On the destroyer command ship, Acting Commander Zark received the reports of multiple breaches with growing horror. "Impossible," he snarled. "How are they even surviving our internal atmosphere?" His tactical officer, mandibles clicking nervously, responded, "Sir, scans indicate they're not using protective fields. They're operating in our environment unshielded." Zark's eyes widened in disbelief. The implications were staggering. These humans, these Deathworlders, were not just resisting the destroyers. They were thriving in conditions that should have killed them instantly. As the battles raged across multiple destroyer vessels, the human teams fought their way to their primary objectives. In engineering bays and command centers, they planted the disruption devices, each successful placement bringing them one step closer to victory. Major Tanaka, her team having fought through waves of increasingly desperate destroyer defenders, finally reached the quantum core of her target ship. As she prepared to activate the disruptor, a massive figure loomed before her, Acting Commander Zark himself. "You," Zark bellowed, his voice filled with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "How are you doing this? What manner of creatures are you?" Yuki, despite the crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere, stood tall. "We're humans," she said, her voice steady. "We're Deathworlders, and we're here to take back our planet." With that, she activated the disruptor. The device pulsed with energy, sending out a cascade of quantum interference that spread through the entire destroyer fleet. Across the linked destroyer ships, systems began to fail. Weapons went offline, shields collapsed, and communication networks dissolved into static. The mighty armada, which had brought ruin to countless worlds, was reduced to a collection of drifting, powerless hulks. As the reports of total victory flooded in, cheers erupted across First Contact Base and around the world. Humanity had done the impossible. They had not only survived the onslaught of the galaxy's most feared conquerors, but had defeated them decisively. In the aftermath of the battle, as Earth began the long process of recovery and the captured destroyer ships yielded up their technological secrets, a new era dawned for humanity. They had proven themselves on a galactic stage, demonstrating a resilience and ingenuity that would reshape the cosmos. Captain Zira, watching the celebrations with a mixture of awe and affection, turned to General Hawkins. "I must admit," she said, her translator struggling to convey the depth of her emotion, "when we first arrived on your world, I pitied you. I thought your harsh planet had cursed you." She paused, her alien features conveying a smile. "Now I understand. Your world didn't curse you. It blessed you. It made you strong." Hawkins nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon, where the first stars were becoming visible in the evening sky. "We've always reached for the stars, Zyra. Now, thanks to you, and the courage of every human who fought in this war, we can finally grasp them." As night fell on a victorious Earth, humanity looked to the future with newfound confidence. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged triumphant. The galaxy would never be the same, and the legend of the Deathworlders was only beginning. Triumph of the Deathworlders. In the months following humanity's stunning victory over the destroyers, Earth underwent a transformation unlike anything in its history. The integration of alien technology, combined with humanity's innate ingenuity, ushered in an era of unprecedented advancement. Cities devastated by the invasion were rebuilt, gleaming structures of human and alien design reaching towards the stars that no longer seemed so distant. At the newly christened Galactic Cooperation Center, formerly First Contact Base, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a gathering of human leaders and alien dignitaries. The room buzzed with an energy that was part excitement, part apprehension. "Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests," Elena began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "What we've achieved in these past months would have once been considered impossible. We've not only repelled an invasion by the galaxy's most feared conquerors, but have also taken our first steps towards becoming a true interstellar civilization." She gestured to a holographic display, showing a network of shimmering lines connecting Earth to distant star systems. "Thanks to the quantum entanglement technology we've adapted from the destroyer ships, we now have the ability to communicate instantaneously across vast distances. And with the advancements in our propulsion systems, the stars are finally within our reach." A murmur of excitement rippled through the audience. Captain Zyra, now serving as the Zephyrian ambassador to Earth, chittered in approval. Her people, once refugees, had found not just sanctuary on Earth, but true allies in humanity. General Hawkins, her uniform now adorned with the insignia of the newly formed Earth Defense Force, stepped forward. "While we celebrate these advancements, we must also address the challenges that lie ahead. The defeat of the destroyers has left a power vacuum in the galaxy. Many species now look to Earth, to humanity, for leadership." The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity, so recently considered a primitive species confined to their death world, was now poised to become a major player on the galactic stage. It was an opportunity fraught with both promise and peril. As the meeting progressed, discussing the formation of a new galactic alliance with Earth at its center, an urgent message interrupted the proceedings. A Zephyrian long-range scout ship had detected a massive energy signature approaching the solar system. Initial readings suggested it dwarfed even the destroyer mothership in size and power. Tension filled the room as the implications sank in. Had the destroyers returned with an even greater force? Or was this a new, unknown threat? General Hawkins's voice cut through the rising panic. "Everyone, remain calm. This is what we've prepared for. Dr. Rodriguez, assemble your team. Captain Zyra, we'll need your expertise. The rest of you, return to your posts and prepare your people. Whatever's coming, Earth will face it united." As the Galactic Cooperation Center erupted into a flurry of activity, humanity's newly established orbital defense platforms swung into action. Sleek spacecraft, a blend of human design and alien technology, took up defensive positions around Earth and its colonies on the Moon and Mars. Days passed in tense anticipation as the unknown entity drew closer. Finally, it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The first images sent shockwaves through Earth's population. It wasn't a ship, at least not in any conventional sense. It was a construct of impossible scale. A Dyson sphere, a megastructure encompassing an entire star, now traveling between solar systems, and it was headed directly for Earth. As the construct approached, it broadcast a message on all frequencies, in all known languages of the galaxy. "People of Earth, conquerors of the destroyers, we have come to bear witness." The message was met with confusion and apprehension. Bear witness to what? And who were these beings with the power to move entire stars? A delegation was quickly assembled. Dr. Rodriguez, General Hawkins, and Captain Zira would represent Earth and its allies. The meeting point was set, neutral territory in the orbit of Jupiter. As their ship approached the colossal Dyson sphere, the human delegates felt a mix of awe and trepidation. The construct's surface was a tapestry of technology beyond their comprehension, entire civilizations seemingly housed within its incomprehensible vastness. A docking bay opened, inviting them in. As they stepped onto the alien structure, they found themselves in an environment that shifted and changed, adapting to their physiological needs. It was a display of technological prowess that made even the destroyers seem primitive by comparison. They were greeted by beings of pure energy, their forms flickering and dancing like living flames. The leader of these entities addressed them, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "We are the Guardians," it said, the concept rather than the word translating in their thoughts. "We have watched the younger races of this galaxy for eons, guiding when necessary, intervening only in the direst circumstances." The humans and Zira exchanged glances, the weight of the moment palpable. The Guardian continued. For millennia, the destroyers were the dominant force in this sector of the galaxy. Many civilizations fell before them, others cowered in fear. We watched, waiting to see if any would rise to challenge them. Its form pulsed brightly. And then came Earth. You humans, born on a world that should have crushed you, evolved in conditions that would kill most sentient life in the galaxy. We watched as you not only survived but thrived. We watched as you met the destroyer threat with a courage and determination that we have rarely witnessed in our long existence. Dr. Rodriguez, her scientific curiosity overcoming her awe, spoke up. "You've been watching us." "For how long?" The Guardian's form shimmered, an approximation of a nod. "Since your species first looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. We saw your potential, but also the challenges your harsh world presented. Many among us doubted you would survive your own violent tendencies, let alone become a space-faring civilization." General Hawkins, her military mind already assessing potential threats and allegiances, asked, "And now? Why reveal yourselves to us now?" "Because," the Guardian replied, "you have proven yourselves worthy. Your victory over the destroyers was not just a military achievement. It was a testament to the strength that can arise from diversity, from cooperation between species, from the unyielding will to survive against all odds." The Guardian's form expanded, encompassing them in a gentle warmth. "We have come to offer you a choice. You stand at a crossroads. With the power you now wield, you could become conquerors yourselves, subjugating other races as the destroyers once did. Or you could become something greater, guardians of peace, protectors of the weak, leaders in a new era of galactic cooperation." The implications of the Guardian's words hung heavy in the air. Humanity, so recently on the brink of extinction, was now being offered a role of galactic importance. Dr. Rodriguez, her voice filled with emotion, responded, "We've seen the cost of war, the pain of near annihilation, but we've also seen the power of unity, of different species coming together for a common cause." She glanced at Captain Zira, who nodded in agreement. "We choose cooperation. We choose to be protectors." The Guardian's form pulsed with what could only be described as approval. "Then let it be so. We will guide you, share our knowledge with you. But the path forward, the great journey of uplifting your galaxy from fear and isolation to unity and exploration, that path is yours to forge." As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, the Guardian left them with a final message. "You call yourselves Deathworlders. It is a term born of the hardships you have faced. But we see you differently. You are Lifeworlders. Beings who thrive in adversity, who find strength in unity, who choose to protect rather than destroy. The galaxy will be watching. Earth, show them the way." The return to Earth was met with a mixture of celebration and solemn responsibility. As news of the Guardians and their offer spread, A new sense of purpose swept across the planet. The scars of the destroyer invasion were still fresh, but now they served as a reminder of what humanity could achieve when united. In the years that followed, Earth became a beacon of hope in the galaxy. The Galactic Cooperation Center expanded into a true interstellar hub, with representatives from hundreds of worlds coming to learn, trade, and find common ground. Humanity's innate adaptability, honed on their unforgiving homeworld, proved to be their greatest asset in this new era. They bridged cultural gaps, found innovative solutions to age-old conflicts, and slowly but surely transformed the war-torn galaxy into a thriving community of diverse species. The term Deathworlder evolved, no longer a mark of pity or fear from other species, but a badge of honor. It came to represent resilience, adaptability, and an unbreakable spirit. Many worlds, inspired by Earth's example, began to see their own harsh environments not as curses, but as crucibles that forged strength and ingenuity. Decades passed, and the galaxy entered a golden age of exploration and discovery. Earth ships, their crews a mixture of humans and alien allies, ventured into the unknown reaches of space. They faced challenges that would have once seemed insurmountable, but with each obstacle overcome, the legend of the Deathworlders only grew. On the centennial anniversary of the destroyer invasion, a great monument was unveiled in the heart of New Geneva, Earth's capital. It depicted figures of various species standing united, with a human and a Zephyrian at the center, their hands clasped in friendship. At the base of the monument, a simple inscription read, "To the indomitable spirit of Earth, and to all those who choose to forge life from the crucible of adversity. May we forever reach for the stars, not to conquer, but to connect." As the sun set on this new Earth, its light glinting off the spires of a city that blended human ingenuity with alien artistry, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now in her twilight years, but still filled with the wonder that had driven her all her life, stood before a class of young cadets. Human, Zephyrian, and a dozen other species sat side by side, their eyes filled with the same hunger for knowledge and exploration that had once filled her own. "Remember," she said, her voice soft, but carrying the weight of a century of progress, "we were forged in the fire of a death world, tempered by adversity, and shaped by the challenges we faced. But our greatest strength isn't our ability to survive. It's our capacity to thrive, to adapt, to reach out to others, and lift them up with us." She gestured to the starry sky visible through the classroom's transparent dome. "Out there, the universe awaits. It will test you, challenge you, sometimes frighten you. But remember this, you are the children of Earth. You are Deathworlders. And there is no challenge you cannot overcome, no star you cannot reach, as long as you face it together." As her words hung in the air, a new ship took off from the spaceport, its mission to establish contact with a newly discovered civilization at the edge of the galaxy. Aboard were humans, Zephyrians, and representatives of a dozen other species, all united in purpose. The age of the Deathworlders had truly begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.